Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I want to start by welcoming one of my favorite people in the whole world, and definitely in Ulster County, Sheriff Juan Figueroa. Thanks for joining us, Sheriff.
Thank you, County Executive. I appreciate it, and I'm honored to be here today.
It's good to actually see you.
It is. It's been pretty busy around here lately.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot to talk about with you in terms of what's happening with pause enforcement, how your team and law enforcement community have been responding and really on the front lines of COVID-19. So we're excited to hear about that, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm going to start, as usual, with a quick update, and then we'll kind of go to you, and then we can open it up for questions. So, as usual, we'll start with the data and how we're doing here in Ulster County with COVID-19. Unfortunately, but expectedly, we continue to see the number of cases, if you'll throw up the graph, please. We continue to see the number of cases increase. Over the weekend, we actually had our two biggest days of relative new cases. But over the last 2 or 3 days, that number has slightly leveled off. And we're now well into the 700s in terms of positive cases. And unfortunately, as of today, we now have 13 fatalities, 13 members of our Ulster County. As we've talked about, everybody has a role to play in doing so. If you look going forward on the graph past where we are today to where we're going in 10 days, that's where you can really see, depending on how closely we follow through with our various social distancing and with the pause regulations from New York State, that really determines whether we'll have about 1,000 more cases or 1,000 total cases in 10 days or or over 2,500 cases in 10 days from now. So it really makes a significant difference. Each one of you make a significant difference in your actions in terms of making sure that you're staying home and slowing the spread and ultimately stopping the spread. So you can see here we're continuing to update this. These projections have stayed relatively even and flat over the last week, which gives me confidence that at least our projections are holding pretty steady in the midst of new data as we update this information. We've had lots of questions. If you'll go to the next slide, please. We've had lots of questions about our capacity to meet this demand and to meet the growing medical need. This is really what this slide is about, updating you all on where we stand with building hospital and treatment capacity. So you can see the numbers right here that we're really focused on. The high-level good news is because of the work we were able to collectively do last week in adding more hospital beds, getting some additional ventilators online at Health Alliance. In terms of both hospital beds and ventilators, we now feel like we are at a sufficient level to carry us through. You can see the remaining capacity numbers there. ICU beds are still somewhat tighter than we'd like, but remember, these are all staffed ICU bed numbers and hospital bed numbers, meaning we have some physical space that's additional. We would just need more staff to bring those online. So between that, the build out at the Marys Avenue campus and our overflow community care center at the high school, I think we are in a good position. We're leaning forward just the right amount where if we, God forbid, have a real test of our hospital capacity, we'll be able to meet it. But hopefully we won't even need to use all of this capacity. That will be a good news story if that is the case. So again, we'll continue to keep those numbers updated, and I'm sure we'll have some questions on those. But we want to always share what we know. This information, by the way, is coming from daily reporting that we're getting from our hospital providers, primarily Health Alliance and Ellenville Regional. But we are also looking at the broader regional picture, what's happening at the New Vance system across the river, what's happening in other parts of the region. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that regional approach in a second. I want to shift gears just momentarily and talk about what is actually happening here in Ulster County and in other counties around the state and the country as it relates to COVID-19. A lot of people don't fully appreciate, and if you'll put up the next slide, please. I think a lot of people don't fully appreciate that really, especially in New York State, county governments, which manage our public health department, manage our emergency operations department, are really, along with, of course, Sheriff Figueroa and his team, the counties really are on the front lines, especially in New York State, of fighting COVID-19. And these are just some statistics, national statistics. Pre-COVID, counties across the country invested $83 billion in building these community health systems. And there are over 1,900 public health departments across the country, just like ours here in Ulster County. The good news is that these capabilities exist. We are pushing them to their absolute boundaries and, frankly, sometimes beyond their limits in the midst of this epidemic. But this is the infrastructure that really forms the backbone to our response. In recognition of that, the federal government, thanks to Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand and Congressman Delgado, they have provided significant funding in the last federal bill, the $2 trillion bill, to help state and local governments. That was a huge step that's going to help a lot of state governments and many municipalities. There is an important distinction here that I do want to make sure everyone understands, though. In that bill, the funding, federal funding, only goes to municipalities, counties and towns and so on, over 500,000 residents. We in Ulster County are, like the predominance of the 62 counties in New York State, are under that number. So unfortunately, in this last bill, we received no federal support, despite the fact that we're spending lots of money in responding to this crisis. So 53 out of 62 counties in New York State are in that same position. So we know there's discussion happening in Washington at the federal level about this. I've been speaking with our federal representatives, both Congressman Delgado and Senator Schumer and Gillibrand. They get this. I'm confident that they get it. And we're hopeful that in this next round of federal funding, counties like Ulster County, which are going to spend millions of dollars unanticipated in responding to this crisis, will get some of that support. So that's the first time we've talked about some of that stuff, but I do think it's important for everyone to be aware of that and ask your help to share that message as well. A few other notes that I want to also share. We've talked, if you'll go to the next slide, please. Well, we've talked about how what we do in the county and the state and the country is all needs to be a regional approach and a national approach and really international. And along those lines, we have made an effort here in Ulster to really help our neighbors, our immediate neighbors. We're closely coordinating with Dutchess and Orange counties, as well as Greene and Columbia. In the last day or two, we've actually been able to help provide some tangible PPE, much needed PPE to our partners in Columbia County and Greene County. So earlier this morning, I met with the chair of the Greene County Legislature. We were able to get them even some test kits. They have a nursing home that has a significant number of seniors that might have COVID, and they need some urgent testing kits to try to help in that situation. So we were really happy and proud to help them there. We've been working with Dutchess to get thousands of face shields manufactured right here in the county. And the last thing I want to emphasize, our mobile testing sites, particularly the town of Ulster testing site at Tech City, those are opened up to all of our neighbors in our surrounding counties. So we have some extra testing capacity. If you're in a situation where you need to go there, you can do that. And we'll put up the information shortly about how you do that. But just know that those testing sites are open to you, and please spread the word about that to your family and friends in other counties. So thank you for letting me get through that update, Sheriff. One of the biggest concerns that we continue to hear from folks is, look, we know how important social distancing is and following the different protocols from the statewide pause policies. But everywhere we go or drive or see, we're seeing people not following through on that, and people are logically, of course, worried about that. So one of the things we announced last week was the stand-up of this pause enforcement task force. Thankfully, we appreciate agreed to really lead or co-lead that. And I wanted to just, if you're willing, give you a chance to talk us through what is that about, how's it been going. I know people have lots of questions about that, so we'd love to hear.
Sure.
On that.
Good afternoon, and again, thank you for having me. I want to thank the county executive and his staff for all the hard work they've been doing throughout this crisis, and it's been very important. We're living in unique times, and this is something that doesn't happen every day. To ask people at the beginning of the springtime when you want to come outside and do things and to be with your loved ones, to be separate, we're asking you not to do that. And we're asking you not to do that to save lives. That's really what this is all about. It's a tremendous inconvenience for all of us. First responders are out there every day. And look, it's understandable. Businesses are closed. They're suffering. People are suffering. But the importance of saving lives is what this is really all about. And this pause enforcement is key to making sure that we save lives. The way it works is that we get folks, as you know, the county put out email and phone number where you can contact New York State. We then get that. I'm working in conjunction with the county executive on this, and we get the complaints, and then we either give it to the local police chiefs, police departments, or if the town doesn't have a local police department, then the sheriff's office will handle it. And most of the complaints are not as severe as people may think. For example, there's a lot of complaints about the rail trail. And believe it or not, I had a bicycle deputy out there on Sunday. And, if you have families that live together in a home and they're together, it doesn't really, the social distancing isn't really for that aspect of it. It's really for people that are not living together and that are far. And for the most part, on the rail trail on Sunday, social distancing was adhered to. And so that's really what we're looking for. And we do look at all of the complaints. We do make phone calls to businesses. We send letters to businesses, and it's a collaborative effort between the sheriff's office and all the chiefs in Ulster County. And it's unique. We're asking people to be a part. We're asking you to be a part so you can be together after this is over with. And that's really what it's all about. It's about saving lives and the importance of that. And I know it's tough being a Marine and taking an oath of office for freedom and what our way of life is. But we're not asking you to do this for 5 years. We're asking you to do it just for a short amount of time until we get past this pandemic and we can save lives. That's really what it's about. You can you can be a carrier and not even know that you have COVID-19, coronavirus, and you go out and meet with friends, and you may give it to a friend, and that friend may have an elderly person in their home, and that person gets it, and that person passes away. And that's what we're trying to avoid here by keeping people, social distancing. That's how important this is, and that's why the county executive and all of us really are trying to let people know this is just for a short time, God willing, and that social distancing is very important because we want to keep people alive.
If you'll, and while you're speaking, Sheriff, if you don't mind, we'll put up the information too on
Sure.
Where people can go or call if they do have issues with pause enforcement. And as a reminder, this means non-essential businesses are closed completely. Any concentration of individuals outside their home must be limited to workers providing essential services. And when in public, everybody has to practice the social distancing. And you can see at the bottom of the slide there, you can go to our county website, which is ulstercountyny.gov/coronavirus, or that toll-free number is actually run by New York State. That's a toll-free 24/7 number. You call them, and then any complaint, confirm this with unless I'm wrong, Sheriff, but any complaint will then basically get forwarded down to us, right?
That's correct. So we'll get an email from the state, and then we go ahead and either give it to the local police departments, or again, if there is none, then we'll go ourselves. Some of the things that some of the other main complaints that we hear from, obviously, are the supermarkets and social distancing there. And I got a complaint over the weekend at one of our locations down in the town of Marbletown. And I called the person up myself, because usually we try to warn the businesses, and we want our businesses to stay here in Ulster County. We want them to do business here. We don't want businesses to close, but we want people to survive this pandemic. And so it's important that social distancing is adhered to. So I contacted that business, and she actually FaceTimed me on my cell phone and showed me what she was doing and the markings on the floor. Just because you see a parking lot full of cars doesn't necessarily mean that they're not adhering to social distancing. In this case, they were.
That's one of the points that I think is worth taking a minute on. So whether it's a business parking lot or a trailhead parking lot, we have had lots of people call or email and say, look, I drove by such and such trailhead. I saw a ton of cars, which I get. Like, in this crazy world and moment that we're in, that rings alarm bells that we never thought any of us might feel. But just because there's a bunch of cars doesn't mean that they all arrived at the same time and that they were all standing together in that parking lot. So I know that might cause folks to be concerned, but we have seen where at some of these trailheads there are lots of cars, but people are staying spaced on the trail. People are, even if needed, one person waits in their car till the other one gets out or in. So we've mostly seen people following through, right?
And we have been checking. Like I said, we had a deputy sheriff that was on the rail trail on Sunday, and so again, it could be a bar. Somebody complained about a bar being opened. I took a ride personally down there, and I sat out across the street and watched the business.
You didn't get a drink?
No, I didn't get a drink.
Bad joke.
So, back in my heyday. But anyway, I did go and I spoke to the owner, and he says, I was actually refurbishing the bar because I'm not open for business. And I went inside. He had two of his relatives in there working. And again, they live in the same home, so he wasn't violating it in my eyes. And again, one of the things I told him was, look, we want you to stay here, but if you're a bar and you're open, the state liquor authority is going to be contacted, and they're going to send somebody down, and more than likely you're going to lose your license. We want your business here, so we want you to be smart, and we're going to get through this together. We just have to be patient, and we have to think of others, and we really have to work together as a community until we get past this. And that's really what it comes down to. As painful as this is, not being able to go out, not being able to socialize with people, we are going to change. And one of the interesting things about change is right now, shifting gears over to what's going on at the sheriff's office, we have virtual court now. That's
how does that
amazing.
work?
So it's a Skype, a business, account that the judges have, and we're actually the judges are responsible to contact the prosecutor, the public defender, and when the police department make that arrest, and it's a qualifying arrest, because of the new bail reform, they'll bring them over to the Ulster County Law Enforcement Center, and we'll have a virtual court. So the judge is literally at their home, the district attorney is at their office, and the defense attorney is either at their office or at their home. And the defendant is in front of the camera, and we make sure he can hear everything and understand everything, and the judge reiterates everything and reads everything. And if there's any silver lining to this, and whenever there's a storm, the sun comes out. We're going through a storm right now, and if there's any silver lining, is that I think the future of law enforcement is going to be centralized arraignment here in Ulster County. This is just the beginning, and so there are some things that we have to adjust, and we're averaging 3 to 6 arraignments from different agencies that don't have the capability of doing Skype at their location. So they're coming over to the county, the Ulster County Law Enforcement Center, and we're helping them do these arraignments. We continue to assist at the sites, at the testing sites. We continue to assist in these arraignments, and that's, again, part of the change that we have going on. Some of the things that we're noticing that I've spoken to the chiefs about is an uptick on, business burglaries. And just the other night we had a robbery at Stewart's. And wow. So people don't have money and they're beginning to get a little desperate. We have to help each other as a community. So if you need help, reach out, make a phone call, call somebody. But whatever you do, don't commit a crime because you're just going to make the situation worse. And law enforcement is still going to be out there. We're still going to be doing our job. And again, this is all about a community effort to get through something that none of us, all our parents, went through. This is a unique situation, and it calls for a unique, leadership. And that's really what, again, it's about saving lives and being able to move past this difficult time that we're all going through.
How I'm going to open up to some questions here, which we're getting a bunch. How are your folks, your members of your team doing? I know we've heard reports in many places of not having PPE, or not here, but around the country, and law enforcement being challenged in a whole bunch of ways. How has your team been responding?
We've been working again with the local chiefs and a lot of these issues and concerns that we're all running into. We have our appropriate gear for all the men and women at the sheriff's office. It's been a unique time. We had to shut visitation at the jail for obvious reasons. We don't want to spread the disease. And in that facility, like in most jails, it's like a petri dish. Once the flu starts in there, it goes throughout the entire facility, just like a stomach virus. Thank God, to this point, to this day, we do not have one confirmed case at the county jail, and I plan on keeping it that way. But it's difficult because, we realize that the population, they're not seeing their family members, and so what we're doing is we're giving them $5 a week for free phone calls, so they can reach out to their family members. It's important, and it's important for them to understand that we understand their feelings as they're going through this as well. Again, we're all going through this together.
Yeah. That's really reassuring to hear about the jail. I mean, I know we've heard reports in other places, other parts of the state and the country, so that I'm sure that's a credit to you and to your team. A few questions coming in for you that maybe we could start with. We kind of talked on this, but I think it's worth saying again. How can I report a business or person not complying with the New York State pause order?
So you can call that 1-8 that phone number that was put up recently. We can probably put it up again, and we get that complaint, and we go. Sometimes, remember, there's 180,000 folks in the county, and we have 4 patrols out during the day, so we can't get to every single one of them, but we will call, talk to management and the owners, and explain to them what's going on, and ask them what policies or what protocols they have in place, or ask them if they're open, or we'll follow up with a visit. A worst case scenario is we will issue summonses, and we will make a disorderly conduct arrest or a criminal nuisance second arrest if you're putting somebody's life in jeopardy over and over again. If you've been warned and you don't want to adhere to that policy, because again, we don't want to do that, but we want to save lives, and right now we all have to comply with this. Again, it's simple. It's about saving lives.
Yep. Thank you. One follow-up about a question from Kristen. This is kind of following up on the jail. We're hearing stories about corrections officers not having appropriate protective gear. Can you speak to what is being done to protect those working in the jail?
So when this has been an evolution, if you will,
when you didn't have this all figured out from day one?
when we first shut down the visitations, we immediately checked everyone. We have one entrance now. It used to be multiple entrances. Now there's one entrance. Everyone that comes into the Ulster County Law Enforcement Center has to get a temperature check. They must wash their hands. We have washing stations there. And if there is any type of temperature, then the nursing staff comes in and checks them. And so far, like I said, we haven't no confirmed cases of COVID-19 on the staff in the jail. But we also started putting masks on with the corrections officers that have interaction with the population, and we did that because we realized that they're the ones that are coming from the outside in. The population is pretty much in one area; they don't really move from that area, and so that's how we've been keeping track with that. And when you come into the jail, if you get arrested, you are going to be in seclusion for 10 days. And again, a nursing staff, you're going to be there's a questionnaire that you have to fill out to see if you were traveling overseas, if you're sick. You're going to get a temperature check, and you're going to be monitored for up to 10 days to make sure before we put you into general population. So we have protocols in place that have been working up to this point.
That's great. That's great. One additional one, and then I'll take a few. Jack just asked, are you considering Skype for civil courts, although that may not be in your lane, as well as the pistol division? I don't know if that...
So we're doing everything with the pistol permit section via mail and email.
Okay.
If you call, we'll mail it to you. As far as virtual court, the courts, most of the courts are not open other than the criminal court. It's just a process that we all have to live with right now. Again, hopefully that'll change in the coming weeks. But right now, I know we've been very successful in dealing with folks. If you send an email to the sheriff's email, I'll get it to our chief civil administrator, and we'll try to get your situation resolved, either by mailing your coupon, if that's what you're looking for, in reference to your pistol permit. But as far as adding any weapons to your pistol permit or getting a new pistol permit, the courts are not open right now to do that.
Yeah, and I guess there's a lot of things shut down, and I get that people... I'm sure that's important to folks looking for it, but I also know everybody's got to be patient to the degree you can in the new world that we're living in, that a lot of these things are hard, and I know you and your team and everybody are doing our best on that. So a few on the kind of public health front, and then I got a few more coming in for you. Lots of questions. You're a popular attraction, Sheriff. So Lisa asked, when is Ulster County expected to reach its apex? Lisa, I wish I could give you an exact date. I think we're still looking at and seeing in the data that we're 1 to 3 weeks behind New York City. If you're hearing, what the governor's reporting and the mayor of New York City, they feel that they are starting to maybe reach that apex and see a plateau. So what we think and hope and are working towards is that we are 1 to 3 weeks behind that, which would put us around, as I've said, for the last few weeks, around the end of the month of April. I think it's important to set expectations that that's not unfortunately, a magic date or window when everything will just go back to normal. I'm not sure we'll ever quite totally go back to normal, but that's when we think the worst of the hospitalizations will happen. And then unfortunately, because this virus takes so long to run its course in folks that have it, we have seen that the fatalities are almost lagging behind the hospitalizations. So even as hospitalization numbers start to flatten, we continue to see fatalities both statewide and here in the county. And we're doing, again, everything we can to prevent that as our ultimate goal. The few more on health. The mobile testing sites are open for testing without prescription, Sean asked, or is a prescription still required? That's a good question. So our mobile testing sites, you no longer need an appointment, but you still need a prescription. I know that's maybe a little confusing. So first you had to go to your doctor get a prescription and also schedule a time slot for an appointment. Now you don't need to schedule. All you need to do, you still do need to go either to your doctor, your primary care physician, or if you don't have a primary care physician or don't have insurance, you can call our COVID-19 hotline. That's 845-443-8888. That's the Ulster County COVID-19 hotline, Monday through Saturday from 9 to 5, and you can speak with one of our public health nurses there. So thank you for that question. We got a few more coming in for you, Sheriff. This is from two individuals, Roger and Will, have similar questions. Has the Sheriff's Office issued any criminal or civil citations related to people violating social distancing guidelines? What about citations related to non-essential businesses operating? So I think either has that happened, and to the degree you can talk about.
So we're kind of early in the process. We just started the task force about a week ago. We're not at that point, and again, that's pretty much a last resort to do that. But again, businesses that are non-essential and they know that they shouldn't be opened, you're going to get caught, and at some point you're going to be issued a citation or a summons, and you know. And that stuff's going to get publicized, and it's not going to be good for the business. And so we are asking the businesses, if you even think that you shouldn't be open, then don't be open. If you have a question, ask. The county executive just put out the COVID hotline. There are people that can help and try and answer your questions. But you know, we live in a free society, and we all have to understand that we're asking people what we're asking them to do. It's something that we usually don't do. And again, the bottom line in all of this to the businesses and the people out there, it's about saving lives and being patient. And if it comes to getting a ticket or a summons, if it comes to that, and once you get warned and you don't adhere to it, then you're going to have to pay those consequences.
And so far, no fines or violations.
We have not issued.
But if needed,
right, we have not.
We're ready. So we got a lighthearted message here, not a question. Hudson Valley Center for Veteran Reintegration, which is Kevin and his team, said, "Let the sheriff know he's doing a good job for a Marine."
Semper Fi, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. I agree. For a Marine, you're doing okay. You're doing all right. You're stringing together complete sentences, and no, I only joke because I love you, Sheriff.
I know that.
All right. So we're getting a lot of questions. I know we talked about this at the beginning, but we're getting a lot of questions about. Specifically, do you have any plans to close the rail trail due to social distancing concerns? So for those that may be tuned in late, would you mind talking again about, you said you had somebody from the sheriff's team up there. That's at the Ashokan Rail Trail, I'm assuming?
That's correct.
Which is the only county-run trail, but we have obviously lots of other trails. Can you talk about what you saw? And
so sure, we put the patrol out. We knew it was Easter weekend, and we also knew that it was going to be 60 degrees out. And so the report that I got back from the deputy sheriff was that, you know, if you're a family of 5 or 6 and you're together and you live in the same home, social distancing is not really a requirement for that. Most of the people on the rail trail were distant. They were adhering to that. We didn't see any issues or concerns. Just because you see a parking lot full doesn't mean that people aren't practicing social distancing. With that said, though, realize that we're asking people to do something that's not really normal, and that is not being with other people. So obviously, it's not just us in law enforcement or the county executive's office. If you see people that need to be distant, then say so. It's your obligation because we're trying to save lives. Together, all of us need to say something about that.
Thank you. Beverly asked, from my neighbors, I'm hearing major problems with unemployment claims. So that's part one of her question, which I can talk to. And then secondly, also protective measures in juvenile facilities in Ulster County. I don't know if she's speaking about juvenile. We don't have.
I do not have
juvenile
any
detention
I
facilities.
do not have any juvenile.
So I'm not sure.
That's a state-run facility down in Highland.
Oh, okay.
So that's not under our realm.
Staff do not have what they need for sanitation and safety. So Beverly, we will. That's not a county-run facility, but we will raise that concern up to the state, and I appreciate you flagging that. Obviously, that's not acceptable.
Then one thing I will add to that is that the county executive staff and Steve Peterson and his staff have been really good with requests. If you need PPE and you're law enforcement or you're an entity, and we can try and help, or we'll at least tell you where you can get it at.
Yeah, and we don't have a lot of extra, but we had enough extra that we were able to give a little bit to our neighbors in surrounding counties, which is nice when we can share, and they offered to do that for us if and when we need it, which we appreciate. In terms of unemployment claims, this has been a big problem really from day one. The New York State runs the unemployment website and hotline. They were so overwhelmed in the beginning that the website literally crashed. And people were waiting hours and days to just get through. The good news is there has been significant improvement. They've now hired hundreds, or I think maybe even 1,000 folks to plus up the staff there. They built a whole new website at the state level. So it's not totally fixed, but it is improving. In the meantime, though, anyone in Ulster County, if you are having problems with that, you can also reach out to our economic development team, and we can raise those concerns as well if you're really running into problems. I don't think I have the number for that here, but if you at least call our COVID-19 hotline, they can get you directed over there. That's 845-443-8888. They can just point you in the right direction. Also, our website, ulstercountyny.gov/coronavirus, we have all the details about all these benefits and unemployment and numbers for you to call there. I know you're very busy, Sheriff. Do you have time for one or two more, or do you want to?
I could do one more. Sure.
Let's see if we have anything else coming in here, other than jokes about you being a Marine. So again, you talked a little bit about this, but I'll bring up supermarkets again. Sarah asked, is there any chance we can get the supermarkets to cut down on the amount of people allowed to shop? There has to be some kind of limitations. So that kind of falls in a gray area of how are you all thinking about that?
It's interesting. Like I said, when we get those complaints, we first will call the establishment to talk to the owner or management. And like I said, one person actually FaceTimed me back on my cell phone and showed me what they were doing in their store, and I was pretty satisfied with what they were doing. There was another store I went to. They were just letting 10 people in at a time, and that's a good route. They're a store that they're an essential store, and we live in a free society. If you see something, say something. Say, your social distancing is off, or say something to management. Crime is still going on. There's a lot of things that are going on in the county. We can't hit every single one of these complaints, but we are going to try. But if you see something, you should be able to say something as a concerned citizen. I would recommend that you bring it up to the attention of management. Again, they want your business. They don't want you not to come to their business. And if you make a complaint, it's their responsibility to make some changes when you make that complaint. We're going to follow through, and if they don't adhere to it, then we'll, all we could do is try to give them a plan that's going to make it easier for them and all of us, because again, the bottom line here, it's about saving lives, and this is not a situation that's, God, I hope it doesn't go on for months and months and months, but we're looking at it being a temporary situation for all of us, and it's a sacrifice that we all have to do. We have to respect each other and our way of lives, the way we live, and as being a free society, that's what this is about.
So I know you need to run. I'm going to do two quick additional good news updates, which we like to end with good positive news, and then we'll give you the last word,
Sure.
Sheriff,
Thank
before we sign off. So Project Resilience, which we've talked about every time we talk, continues to be one of the really good news, silver linings stories of what's happening in Ulster County. Here are the latest numbers. We have now delivered 36,000 meals provided by 160 plus restaurants at cost. So we're both feeding those in need in Ulster County, and we're helping keep some of our essential restaurant businesses open and keep their heads above water. That is all happening thanks to two things. One, 16 local teams that are really led by town supervisors and town and village leaders and an army of volunteers that are out delivering this food. So we thank you for that. And this is also happening because of the generosity of individuals who have made financial contributions, some of them significant, businesses, not-for-profits, and individuals. On our small dollar GoFundMe page, we just crossed a threshold last night, or over the last 24, 48 hours. We've now raised over $100,000 in small grassroots donations to complement the larger donations from an anonymous donor that was significant, and many of our local businesses that have given as well. So again, I'm just so proud and appreciative of those that have given, and if you're able to give a little bit more, you can go on our ulstercountyny.gov page. The link to Project Resilience is right there. For a few dollars, you can provide meals to those in need around our county, and we're also providing childcare support for our essential workers, our frontline workers. On that note, I again want to thank all of our workers on the front line of this epidemic. Many of you did not sign up for this, clearly, but you have stepped up and are really heroic, and we appreciate that, from healthcare workers, mail carriers, grocery store staff, delivery workers, public transit workers, journalists, teachers, pharmacy workers, and many others on the front lines. Thank you. We appreciate it, and I think I can speak for the sheriff as well when I say that, and for all the people of Ulster County. A small thing that we're trying to do to recognize those folks, and we could, I mean, the list is so long, but what we've done is we've created Ulster County Community Champions program, and the idea here is anyone watching or anyone out there can nominate a member of their community who has stepped up and gone above and beyond, whether that's in their job as a nurse or a grocery store worker, or whether that's as part of a not-for-profit or a volunteer that's doing incredible work. I want to start by shouting out one individual, and if you'll put up the graphic here, you can see some of her handiwork and her team. Maria Cabrera, who runs her own alteration and tailoring business, has been working pretty much nonstop, 6 days a week, to provide masks to essential businesses, including grocery stores, nursing homes, doctors' offices, police departments, which you can see in one of the photos, fire departments, our own testing site at Tech City, Health Alliance Hospital, food pantries, and to at-risk individuals. To date, her and her team have produced over 3,000 masks for frontline workers and has done it completely free of charge, which is just incredible. And she's actually set up a website as well now on her own website. Any individual can actually go to her website and sponsor a mask for a frontline worker. So that's really cool. And you can see the link to her website there, Masks by Maria, on her page there. So Maria, on behalf of everybody in Ulster County, thank you for what you and your team are doing. That is just really a powerful story, and we thank you for it. And I know there are many, many others out there doing this work. So if you have someone that you want to nominate, you can go on our Ulster County COVID-19 page, and there's a form to fill out for our community champions. So that's something, more good news in the midst of what's going on. So you and your team, you're always the most humble of everybody I know, But I also want to thank you personally
Thank you.
in person. You all sign up to do a lot of crazy things and put yourselves at risk, but I can imagine this was not one of the things that you envisioned. You've been in now, what, 2 years-ish or so? Year and a half? Feels
15
like
months?
15
Feels
months.
like 2 years.
Feels like 2 years for me. But thank you, Sheriff, for
thank you,
and
Mr.
your
County
team.
Executive. I appreciate that. And I'd like to take a moment to, of course, echo what you said about our first responders, our firemen, our EMS workers, our emergency management team that's out there in the county doing a tremendous job. Those that are out there working every day, basically. I also want to remind people who we are as a people and our way of life, and how I know how restraining this is for us now, but once we get through this, we're going to learn from this, and we're just going to be better at what we do as a community and as a county. I can't tell you how happy I am and how humbled I am to be here as a sheriff at this time right now, and having you as a county executive and most of the people that are out there working every single day helping people. And we have to help each other, and we have to do it together. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Sheriff. And I don't know when the date will be, but I think we have to have some kind of big party or parade or celebration once we know we can do it safely. I think everybody out there is just, I know I am itching for that moment and looking forward to that moment. I know it's coming. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Please, everybody out there, continue to stay safe and healthy and hang in there. And we will see you on Thursday, actually. We'll see you on Thursday at the same time. And we're really excited to have Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul is going to join me in a Zoom call with small businesses. Well, really any businesses or anybody who wants to join is welcome, of course. But we're going to be talking about what's happening to help our small businesses, not-for-profits, and other entrepreneurs and business owners out there as we think about how we get out of this situation. So thank you, and we'll see you soon. Have a great day.